So, hello, welcome back to another episode of the Self-Development Tactics podcast. Today, we're once again going to go through certain Reddit questions, and there's actually one that I am really looking forward to going through because I would rather say that it is first of all pretty interesting and second of all relatively useful, compared to other things you might be able to find on Reddit. Anyway, never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present. Which apparently is a quote by Marcus Aurelius. Can someone explain it in simple words? I am a non-native English speaker. The way I understand this is not to worry about the future, because the future will happen if it is bound to happen with the same perception of knowledge that I have right now. Which, on one hand, as I'm understanding it right now, can be a bit bad, because if you think about it, it really depends. If you are kind of overwhelmed in the present, and if you're not feeling good in the present because of whatever reason, chances are there, and chances are pretty high as well, that the future is not going to be really different. So it really does make sense then, according to this quote, according to this thought, to really make sure that the present is nice and then you're really doing good in the present, so that you can somehow ensure to a certain degree, not fully, because this is never ever gonna be possible, that the future is also gonna be similar, at least. Since you probably are not able to deal with things in a way that it is going to be the same, but at least similar, so you can actually do things and you're not overwhelmed by things and whatnot. Let's actually see, because there is a bit more to it. Not to worry about the future, because the future will happen if it is bound to happen with the same perception of knowledge that I have right now. Did I understand it correctly? Kind of. It basically means that there is no point in having anxiety over the future, because you're going to deal with it as rationally then as you would now. Except you're going to have the benefit of more information and less assumption. And yeah, this is completely the case, However, which I think really ties into the other thought that I had just before, but also, whatever is going to happen in the future, you are going to do your best. Period. Of course, you can do things right now to make it a bit easier for you in the future, for this situation, to just prepare yourself. But in the end, in the real end, you're going to deal with it in a way, or in the same way, probably, unless you decide differently, or maybe, let's say, in the best way you can do. So whatever happens, you're just going to deal with it in the best way you can, as you're dealing with things right now. And so does it really make sense to have anxiety over the future, and fear the future? No, not really. Whatever happens, happens, and you're going to deal with it, and you're going to have to deal with it. Whatever is going to come, whether it is indeed as bad as one, might think of it to be, or it is actually going to be a bit different, and it's actually going to be quite nice and quite great and quite whatever. Hello. I don't know why this changes. Should be fine like this. So it might have been the case that what I've said before was a bit silent. I'm gonna try to deal with it, but yeah, let's see. Best take: you should not plan for the future, but plans should be about reducing risk. I.e., we will set a reasonable amount of money aside just in case, or we'll purchase insurance just in case. I do want to underline and do want to emphasize, just because the future is going to be however it is going to be, doesn't mean that we should be cautious about things. It doesn't mean that, or we shouldn't be cautious about things. Like, of course, it makes sense to set aside some money, to make sure that you're not going to be poor in the future, to make sure that you have a certain amount of savings. I don't really want to say that, you should kind of have, 100K or whatnot. Might be a bit overkill. But I think being cautious and making sure that you're going to be safe and making sure that things are going to be well in the future really does make sense. Why shouldn't you? It would actually be pretty dumb if you're not trying to do so, if you're not trying to mitigate risks. Unless you are prepared for taking these certain risks, Sometimes there is just a certain risk. And most often, we can't really ensure that things are going to be just extremely well or whatnot, Things are just going to happen as they happen, most often. When I'm, for example, deciding to invest into stocks to save my money from inflation or to make sure that I'm going to have some money in the future, then of course there is also the possibility of me losing all my money, or maybe just a really big portion of it. Like, one can really be pretty cautious, but it is never going to be 100% safe, because nobody knows what is going to happen in the future, because things happen as they happen, and period. But yeah, let's see if we can find something else. I think a pretty great thought, and a pretty important thought as well. Writing product ideas. Ebook $22. Thanks, but no. Suggest me any book where the atmosphere is optimistic. I have no ideas of my own. I've been a fraud. I'm applying to PhD programs in English, but I realize I'm a complete fraud. It goes beyond imposter syndrome. I've always been an excellent student in English literature at the elite university, quote unquote elite, by the way. I know it is all bullshit to begin with, but I always impressed my professors and won awards for my writing, etc. I don't have a lot of other skills and struggle in some areas, and so academics and English especially were really important to me, and I loved them. And I worked really, quote unquote, really hard. I researched for hours and hours even when it wasn't required. But I realized today that I have no ideas of my own. I basically just read the text, then research for hours and absorb other people's ideas, then think about them and marinate them until I trick myself into believing they are my own, then reread the text with all the new. Well, I get it. I get the whole idea of the text. And I think that it is something incredible to notice and very important to notice and think about. Also, since I am a designer, when it comes to designing as well, like, is this really my idea, or is it just something that I've stolen? The overall problem that I think you're always going to face is whatever I'm doing really original? Is whatever I'm writing about really original? Is it ever going to be original? How big is the chance that it is, or the possibility that it is indeed original? That it is something that I made up, something that I just, thought about. This is my idea. The possibility is actually pretty low, since there are so many people on this planet that, no matter whatever you think and whatever you want to write about, maybe somebody already did that. Maybe this person published it or not. Maybe it is already somewhere, but you just are not able to find it because it is just an ebook. Somebody wrote an ebook that is very just in the dark of the web, not the illegal thing, no. But just you just can't find it because it is so small and so insignificant that it is just there, but nobody's ever gonna see it. It's just lost in the depths of the web. This is one idea and one thought. On the other hand, of course, like, I do often work pretty hard to make, or at least think to make ideas on my own. But of course, inspiration is a pretty big thing. On the other hand, when I'm working on a design project, also try at first to just go through the ideas that I'm having. And when I'm stuck, I like to just go through some references and inspiration, see what other people did before me and how they have been doing things, and what was important for them and why I like their work. And when I see, okay, maybe this is an aspect of this person's work that I really like and really makes the whole thing pop, quote unquote, or just makes the whole thing good. Well, I think that I'm gonna, quote unquote, steal this idea. And in the end, I'm probably gonna find myself taking this idea and that idea and the other one, and I'm combining them. And now it is an original thing. Because it probably hasn't been done before, but I have done it. And this is super duper fine. Like, why not? You know? Why does always everything have to be original when in the end it's never going to be original, since the possibility is so low that nobody thought about that already? You know, what is original even? What's the definition of that? You know, it probably is, once again, a construct, a system that we ourselves developed, and basically the variables are up to you. What is original and what isn't? Like in the very macro sense. Quite, you know. Of course, when you just steal something, then it is not going to be original, period. You know, it is what it is. But let's see what people are saying about the whole thing. All art is stolen. You're just combining different ideas and interpretations into one and elaborating on those ideas in your own way. You think your sources were unique ideas? Question mark. We stand on the shoulders of the giants before us. It just sounds like you're in academia. So much of academia is taking theory and applying it to literature. If you want your PhD in English literature, you're going to be taking someone else's ideas and applying it to literature. That is it. And well, in general, we learn theory. You know, you're not going to come up with your own fucking theory unless you already know the other theory and you can build on that. You know, build another theory on the other theory. Because you probably can't do something new if you don't know the old and what is already there. Because probably you're going to come up with something that somebody else already came up with. So in the end, I think one could also be talking about just being a bit gentler to oneself. And as I often talk about it, being one's own best friend. On one hand, being gentle and understanding. You know, and sometimes just not pushing yourself as hard as you could or as you're doing, because you're not getting anywhere with doing so. But on the same hand, or on the other hand, pushing yourself really, really hard when you notice that you're just a lazy piece of shit. I think it both is very, very, very important. Today I learned 2 high school students found that despite advertising claims that the black currants in Ribena have 4 times the vitamin C of oranges. The drink contained almost no trace of vitamin C, and one orange juice brand had over 3 times more. The company were taken to court and fined, is this New Zealand dollar? I don't know, 217,000. No, why would you actually be doing that? Well, I understand the whole thing. Like if I claim, okay, it's having 4 times the vitamin C of an orange. And an orange depends on the size, of course, really does. Well, you know, if you claim something like that, I think the wording is very important there. Because as I said, what size is the orange? You know, when the orange is a really small one, the smallest orange in the fucking world might actually be the case. A normal orange around, well, I would say 120 to 180 grams or something, is gonna have, at least as far as I know, almost 100% of the daily intake of vitamin C that you need. Somehow around. It's actually a very, very, very good source, especially also because oranges are not that expensive. Compared to apples, they're doing pretty well. Really, really well. Overcoming depression, we are who we choose to be. Yes. And apparently it is a story, so I assume that it is rather lengthy. I'm not 100% okay with myself or ready to settle though. I want to achieve bigger goals and to continue bettering myself. I have to act like the best version of yourself. What habits do they have? How do they treat themselves? And how do they feel about themselves? In the end, action is always going to be the thing to do. Thinking and being motivated or whatnot is never going to do the trick. It's never going to help anybody. But actually, actual action is going to do the good thing. Actual action is going to help you. It is going to this is going to make results. Doing something makes results. Motivation, inspiration, the willingness to do something might lead to do something, you know? but it is not going to result in results. It's not going to lead to results because there's a step in between, which is actually doing something, unless you decide that, okay, the motivation that leads to the task is already a result. Okay, the result of being motivated is doing something, but really change, and being able to have change and being able to do change, this is gonna evolve to actually doing something and having an action. And period. Of course, I could be sitting in my room all day long and think, well, okay, I'm so depressed. But if I don't do anything about that, well, I'm probably gonna stay depressed. Anyway, I'm gonna end the episode there. See you soon, and bye-bye.